In Iran, mourners gathered for the funeral procession for the country's former supreme leader, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, yesterday. He was later buried in the northeast city of Mashhad. During the procession, some carried signs reading, quote, "Trump, we will kill you." CBS News has learned President Trump spoke with Israel's prime minister yesterday. Benjamin Netanyahu's office says the White House gave him updates on American moves in the Gulf. Meantime, the Wall Street Journal reports Israel shared intelligence Iran recently considered a plan to assassinate President Trump. Tensions between the U.S. and Iran remain high after the latest round of strikes we've seen this week. CBS News national security correspondent Charlie D'Agata joins us from our D.C. bureau to discuss this. Charlie, good morning. In the overall war picture, how significant are the strikes that we've seen unfold this week?
Yeah, Errol, the fighting this week is by far the most serious escalation we've seen since the U.S. and Iran signed the framework last month. It was supposed to lead to a more permanent peace agreement. And although last night was quiet for the first time in days, that fragile ceasefire is barely holding together. The fight between the U.S. and Iran entered a dangerous new phase, pushing the prospects for peace even further out of reach. This latest back and forth kicked off after U.S. officials said Iran fired on 3 commercial vessels earlier this week in the Strait of Hormuz, a key shipping channel, particularly for oil. The Iranians want to control the strait and have shown they are willing to do it by force.
I think that the Iranians think they're in a position of tremendous advantage right now because they don't think President Trump has the will to sustain a campaign against them.
President Trump himself said this week he wasn't looking for the war to go on, calling the strikes retribution for Iranian aggression.
I think anything that happens is going to be over very quickly.
The strikes may be punitive, but they're also strategic. U.S. officials tell CBS News they've hit more than 170 Iranian military targets along the strait in the hopes of loosening Iran's hold on the waterway. Iran fired back, targeting key U.S. allies in the Gulf, including Kuwait, Qatar, and Bahrain.
This is not anywhere near an end of the war. This is just entering kind of a new phase.
In Iran, this all comes as crowds gathered for the funeral of the late supreme leader, Ayatollah Khamenei. Some mourners pictured holding a banner that read, "Trump, we will kill you." The conflict has prompted extra security measures for President Trump in an unexpected switch. He left the NATO summit in Turkey this week in the old Air Force One, as its replacement, gifted by the government of Qatar, was sent out of the region without him. Now, sources tell CBS News it was on the recommendation of the Secret Service. The old plane is equipped with sophisticated military defenses and secure communication systems that the new Air Force One lacks. The Trump administration says the president remains committed to finding a resolution, but called the recent attacks on vessels in the Strait of Hormuz terrorism. Nevertheless, a U.S. official tells CBS News talks with Iran will continue. Errol?
All right, well, we hope so. Charlie, thank you. CBS News national security contributor Joe Zacks joins us now. He's also the former Deputy Assistant Director for Counterterrorism at the CIA. Joe, good Friday morning to you. Thanks for being with us. So if we just take a big picture here, this week we've seen tactical escalation, security questions around Air Force One, and doubt about future peace. What stands out to you as the most significant development here?
Well, thank you for having me on this morning. And what I would say is I see 3 top lines here. First of all, that Iran will continually push the boundaries of what the U.S. believes Iran agreed to in the 3-week-old MOU. Second, the U.S. will strike against Iranian aggression, but will do all in its power not to return to prolonged open hostilities. And I think President Trump said as much. And your previous reporting by Charlie also indicated that. But perhaps most importantly, as we continue the diplomatic process and as we try to move forward in agreeing to a final settlement on the nuclear file, the devil is truly in the details, and words matter. And if we're not careful in how we negotiate a final nuclear agreement with Iran, they will do all in their power to take advantage of any lack of clarity or uncertainty or loopholes with respect to any agreement. And we see that, I believe, in what provoked the Iranian aggression earlier this week against the ships trying to transit the Strait of Hormuz. The Iranians are clearly trying and believe that, as they interpret the MOU, they have right to control some of this passage, whereas the U.S. believes that Iran does not have that right, and that there is a right for unfettered transit through the strait. So these kind of disagreements over vagaries in written documents is what leads to this kind of confrontation. So the negotiations are extremely important.
And one of the other details that led to conflict in the early days of this MOU was that Israel would halt its attacks on Hezbollah in southern Lebanon. And so far this week, Israel has not got involved in renewed strikes on Iran. Has that surprised you?
No, not at all. I think that this is enforcement of the Strait of Hormuz, and the free passage of shipping through the Strait of Hormuz is really, from Israel's perspective, between the U.S. and Iran to resolve. I don't see Israel rushing in unless the U.S. asks for something very specific with respect to kinetic support for military strikes. I don't see Israel participating in that. But I also don't see Iran provoking attacks against Israel in the same way that they attacked Jordan, Kuwait, and Bahrain earlier this week, because I think they're also quite afraid of Israeli retaliation against them, which tends to be significant and effective.
All right. Well, we hope for a peaceful resolution. As always, Joe Zacks, great to get your perspective on this story today. Thanks for being with us from Washington.
Thank you.